Ideas, inspiration, innovation. This is The Game Changer. And now here's your host, Chicke Fitzgerald.
I am so excited today. We're doing a special series with game-changing CEOs and founders. And I had the opportunity recently to meet Winglore Spirits and am kind of in the process of meeting their whole team. And Erik is the second one that I have talked to. And Erik, I would love for you to tell me a little bit about your backstory and then how Winglore came to be. And again, I think I asked you before we got on air, did you choose the team or did the team choose you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a long story behind that for us. I'm actually the CSO, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer. Carlos is the CEO. There are four founders, and we kind of divide and conquer on the C-suite roles, trying to play to all of our strengths. And that goes a little bit to your question. Did we choose the team or did the team choose us? And how exactly did that work
Right.
for us? And it's interesting. So, like you've heard before, we're a company founded by four pilots. Three Air Force background, one Marine Corps background. Myself, I'm a heavy airlift driver, C5, C-17s. Trip is a F-16 pilot. Stroke is an F-15 pilot. And Carlos, our one Marine Corps brother, is an F-18 pilot by background and trade. And it was a little bit of both, I think, to answer your question. Trip and I have known each other for almost 30 years. We went to
Right.
college together. We've known each other since before our freshman year of college. We're stationed together on our first assignment. We're stationed again 10 years later. We were in each other's weddings. We live 3 blocks away from each other now in Jamestown, Rhode Island. We definitely chose each other for this effort. And we had actually been started down a road of developing and creating a whiskey company when we met Carlos and Stroke, who also chose each other. Um, they were on a similar path, a little bit different. As you've heard us talk about, Rob Trip Raymond is famous in the pilot community because of his musical talents. He's a great pilot and all, but he's really a great musician. And that led us to do other things like start Operation Encore, a veteran music project, the nonprofit that we run. But that has made him famous in the aviation community.
Got
And
it.
that's why Carlos originally reached out to us, is he knew and understood, as we have, that music is really an important part of our culture and heritage as aviators, which a lot of
Right.
people don't know.
And we're going to come back not only to that, but we're going to come back to the giving piece of it because I believe that that is part of what makes you guys game changers. So again, so why spirits? Why whiskey? And now you're kind of morphing into the
Yeah.
single malt community, which is what attracted my husband.
Oh, really?
My husband and I are both investors in Winglore, and in the spirit of full disclosure. He had been a very, very long time Scotch drinker
Mhm.
and got me interested in learning more about Scotch and in enjoying it. But we went on the bourbon trail a couple of years ago, and there was no turning back for me. I am now a bourbon girl through and through. So,
Well, I'm glad we can support both of you in this journey. That's really what we're here for. And that's wonderful to hear. And it's funny, like I have great disparity in my life and in the people that are important to me. My mother loves the American single malt, and my wife loves the bourbon. I can't really say which one I like better. You're not supposed to choose between your children. I love them equally, but it is interesting how people's flavor preferences and palates really you know edge towards one over the other for sure. um, so yeah, I mean, even to get back to your question earlier, we kind of initially, each of us had chosen one of those partners for the long term and then found this partnership about 3 years ago, where it made sense for us to get together. It's a small Air Force, it's a small aviation community. We each know people who knew each other, but we don't
right.
have that longer term relationship. But we've been able to form like this an incredibly tight bond and shared decision to make a run at what we think is a pretty special company.
Right, right. So, why the name Winglore?
Mhm. Great question. And you're not the first one to ask that. And it's really for two reasons. The first reason is, particularly in the spirits industry, it's really hard to find a good name that's not taken or trademarked or something by somebody else. And this trips up people regularly, right? They get started, they have a distillery or they start a brand, and they don't go through the process appropriately and own their name, and it ruins companies.
Right.
So we were very deliberate about that. And Carlos, in particular, had worked on this for years. So owning that intellectual property for any business owner, regardless of what field you're in, is critical, right? And Carlos has been especially good at that. And he developed this. And one of the ways it's easy to come up with or easier to come up with a name that's not taken is to make one up.
Right.
I don't know that you can look up Winglore and get a definition in the dictionary, but it's a combination of a couple words that should tell you what it means, right?
Yes.
And it's at the heart of some of what's important to us as an aviator, as a pilot, as a military pilot, and important to us as a company. It is the stories and the tradition and the heritage of flight. That's what we look to embrace a little bit and is important to us for our company and also what we think of as our community. And it goes, we put this in our tagline. Our tagline is toasts, roasts, and lore, because it's all about, toasting to give respect, to give honors, to remember,
Right.
roasting, taking taking the piss out of each other whenever possible, right?
Right.
Finding ways to make things funny. We work in a job that requires incredible precision, constant attention, incredible hard work. You have to take this job incredibly seriously if you're an aviator, but it doesn't mean you have to take yourself too seriously. So
Right.
we double down on that, and it's important to us that we fully take our job seriously in the whiskey business, but we never take ourselves too seriously. And if you follow us on social media, that will be quite apparent to you, I think,
Right.
because we try to make it fun and funny. And that's part of the community piece and heritage piece too, is that people think the coolest thing about being a pilot is flying airplanes, and it's not. The coolest thing about being a pilot is being around other pilots. Because you're with a group of people that obviously flying airplanes is super cool, but you're around other people that love what they do, they care about what they do, they care about each other, and you fly, fight, and win as a team. And that is incredibly important. So part of, again, the reason that spirits is such a big part of our community is because you fly and fight together. And when you get home, you debrief critically of each other and you
Right.
celebrate and you mourn together. And
Right.
we do all those things usually over hopefully a cold beverage because it makes everything a little bit
Right.
easier and flow
Well,
a
I'll
little
have to
bit.
tell you, I've been a little bit jealous of you guys because, as I mentioned, I encountered you because I invested in you, and I invested in you because you were part of a platform that we were getting ready to join called Netcapital. And for those who aren't aware of these kinds of platforms, it used to be that when you wanted to invest in a company, you had to have a net worth of, I believe, $250,000 or above, and you really couldn't invest seriously. Uh, well, you could as friends and family, but as an investor, you couldn't unless you could sign a statement saying that you could afford to lose it all, right?
You're an
And
accredited investor is the term, right? You have to be.
exactly, exactly. So a few years ago, there was a law passed that allowed individuals to come in and do what's called crowdfunding. And some of you may be familiar with platforms that raise money for people who are in the hospital or different things. This isn't like that, or Kickstarter, people who are, like launching a products company. This is different in that it actually caters to both audiences. Accredited investors can invest in Netcapital and also individuals. And the founder and the team gets to decide what the minimum investment is. And for our investment at Solutions, it's $99, which means that literally I can ask all of my friends and family to invest at the absolute minimum. And if they can afford more, great. And then we can also, once we've got momentum, we can go out. So a part of that process for me was I thought, well, before we go live, I want to see what the communication is like with investors. And so I looked at all the companies, and there's some pretty cool companies on Netcapital right now, but you are by far the coolest, right?
Oh,
So
thank you.
I went in and I invested personally. And then I was showing my husband the platform because of course, we co-own the company at the end of the day. And I said, well, here, let me just show you what I did with Winglore. And he said, well, I want to invest. And so he created his own account and he invested. And then we participated in, I know it wasn't your first call with what term your ambassadors, your insider group.
Mhm.
And it was just so much fun to see the humor, I mean, see the roasting, like all of the things that you've just talked about. And, it left me wondering how I can create that same environment with the people who are in our inner circle. So bravo for doing that. So
Thank
Erik,
you.
you talked about the different roles that the four of you play. Why don't you walk me through that and a lot of people, I have to back up and say this. I've interviewed a lot of people who have served our country.
Sure.
And interestingly enough, most of them have been very young. They perhaps did one long tour of duty and then left. Um, but I have been so amazed at the skills that they leave the service with. And for you guys, I mean, you have all served for a long time. And so the skill sets that you have amassed aren't just in the cockpit, right? There are a broad range of skills that you've got to really employ when you're in the cockpit, when you're planning a mission, when you're responding to leadership that maybe is great or maybe is not, right? So tell me about the four roles that the four of you play and how do you divide the work that has to be done? Because I know you each also do other things still. You're not all doing this full time.
For sure. So the way that we divided it initially is Carlos was going to be the chief executive officer. He owned the intellectual property. He has the most background in the spirits industry. He worked for a number of years with his uncle who owns a tequila company when he first left the service. And Carlos, incredible guy, Marine enlisted guy turned officer and F-18 pilot and Russian linguist, like from East LA. He's an incredible story by himself. And one of the cool things I think is all of us have taken very different paths in our military careers to get where we are, and everybody kind of has their own interesting story. But you got to divide up some roles. To your point at the
Yes.
beginning of a startup and as you start a company. So Carlos was the going to be the chief executive officer. He had the most time and availability, and he had most recently ejected from an airplane, broke his back and neck, and we didn't think he'd ever fly an airplane again. So he had the most time.
Right,
Turns out
right.
he's 2 years later flying airplanes again, which is absolutely crazy because I'm pretty sure if he ejects again, his body will just come apart in midair. But that's the crazy things that we do in this space.
Right.
Stroke originally came on as the COO. I came in as the chief strategy office and Trip as the chief marketing office. But in reality, like those are just names.
Right.
As you know, in a startup with a small number of people running it, it's a pickup game, right? And I'm like chief toilet cleaner and dog walker, as well
Yep.
as whatever else needs to be done, right? That's how it works in these things. And because to your point, one of the ways that we make this work and put a lot of the capital that we raise and our own funds into making this successful is by us continuing to do other jobs while we start this up. Now, that's a different path for a lot of startups, and some startups really like you have to either have saved your money, go all in. Investors will expect that you don't take a salary and like you're going to live and die on this hill. We did not
Right.
take that approach at all. And I think there are lots of ways you can go about and be successful in this, but I think ours is a great one. We have the ability to bring bandwidth together of several experienced and I think talented folks to dedicate significant bandwidth, but find the ability to do that because we can maintain our families and lifestyles and we're at a point in our lives where we all have kids that are either in high school or college,
Right.
where we can't say like, yeah, we're just not going to eat and sleep on couches. We're not 27-year-olds in Silicon Valley or something right now. We're at a different point in our lives, obviously. But some of us have military retirements already. I and Stroke are still serving, but it gives us the ability to give significant bandwidth without having to sacrifice or financially for our families at a critical point in our lives.
Right.
So it really comes down to what do we need to get done this week? We do roughly find ourselves working in those portfolios. So the capital raise, the net capital piece is kind of in my job jar. Trip does handle a lot of the marketing where he runs a lot of the events that we do that are music and whiskey combined in particular, because that's relevant for him, uh, for sure, being the Dos Gringos guy. Where Carlos really does still handle a lot of the intellectual property. And we have a couple other important folks on our team that we brought in early that we knew was incredibly important. Jason Myers has come on board. We call him Ebby is his call sign, and he is our CFO, and he handles a lot of those chief operating officer type jobs as well. Super detail oriented guy, exactly what we need. And then of course we have Amanda Beckwith, who is our blender, master blender, and really makes the liquid magic. We call her Ninja. Um, and we couldn't make what's in the bottle without her, right? She's absolutely critical
Right.
to our team as
Right.
well. And then like the team keeps getting bigger in part through those brand ambassadors. And I think what we've done smartly, and this is probably important for anybody starting a business, is we found really strong partnerships.
Right.
Other companies that we work with and rely on. Any company is going to have the combination of suppliers and providers or customers, and getting good ones matter. And when you don't have good ones, and we've had this problem too, is
Right.
move on and get a better one.
Well, and the importance of distribution. And again,
Sure.
sales is one thing, and particularly in your world, if you have a gorgeous bottle and a great label, which you guys do, I mean, I absolutely love your stuff.
Thank you.
It can jump off the shelves, but it has to get on the shelves, right? And so
Sure.
distribution partnerships are absolutely critical. And then, again, I don't know if you're using supplier interchangeably with that, but suppliers of, getting you the raw materials that you need to turn it into the magic is, of course, important. I want to talk just a little bit because you guys, at least by my measurement, you guys have been pretty successful at the net capital raise. Are
Yeah.
you at that tipping point where you're going from tapping into your network and the people who know you and trust you and would invest just because of the four of you, whether it's one, two, or all four of you together? Are you at that place where you are now reaching out? And I don't want to say blindly because it's not a blind exercise, but targeting investors who are interested in investing in spirits. Are you going outside again of your internal network?
Absolutely. So we probably are at a point where maybe 20 to 25% are folks that are in our network. So it's a lot of folks that are outside. And that might be secondary or tertiary
Right.
people in our community or that have heard from others. But it is getting to that point. We're approaching about 500 investors on net capital and 680,000 from the net capital raise. We were
Right.
very lucky, and we did a friends and family internal raise before we started net capital. And this is one of the ways we knew we were onto something is we set out to over the first few months raise $750,000, and we raised $970,000 in 3 weeks,
Wow.
with like minimums of $25,000 investment. And that was
Right.
surprising to us. Like more money came in than we were expecting. We're like, all right, how do we deal with this? We're going to take more money? Or are we not? We had some people that were
Right.
pissed at us because we didn't ask them for money. And I was like, I didn't think you had $25,000. Like, I don't know. Uh, so
Well,
that was
and that's the way I feel too. And we've done something similar. We have a unique method within our company of tracking people's contributions because unlike, we're a software company, so we
yeah,
don't have to deal with physical product and physical distribution
sure.
like
That's
you
super
do.
helpful.
But our main product is travel, and everybody in the world travels for some reason or another, and every company in the world sells to people who travel, including spirits companies who, if you do have your own distillery, at some point you have visitors coming in and doing tastings. And,
Sure.
so we actually love the sector for a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, loving the product, of course, but it's a critical sector for us at Solutions because we want to be the ones powering the tasting rooms. And when people come in, if they're going to spend time tasting, we're pretty sure that there is going to be some number that will over imbibe and really shouldn't be driving even if they're local, right? So finding a hotel nearby the distillery, by the winery, is kind of part of what we do. But what I was going to ask you, well, let's just touch on that. So do you guys have your own distillery, your own physical facility, or are you partnering on that right now?
We are partnering on that, and it's one of the things that has helped to make us agile and be really in this startup space. As a non-distilling producer, we can work with lots of different distilleries and bring in high quality product. One of the concerns some people have, and I get asked this all the time in the investment space, like,
Right.
isn't there a whiskey bust happening now? Or like, aren't people drinking less? Isn't that a problem for you? Why are you starting a company in this space now? Um, and I've got a few answers to that. And I would say that historically, it shows that this is actually a pretty stable place. When times are good, people drink. When times are bad, people drink more. So,
I was going to say, I didn't think that was a trend.
right. But there are some trends, and they're
Right.
more nuanced than that. And one of the things that we find, and data shows this, is that people may be drinking less overall, which is probably a good thing, but they're drinking better, which is also a good thing. So people are much more likely to have a high quality beverage,
Without a doubt.
rather than, there are a lot less, you know, Bud, Coors Light drinkers and people drinking like a high-end custom craft IPA. Similarly, a
Without a
lot
doubt.
of people are drinking, Jim Beam and are drinking a Blanton's or something
Yeah.
that's a better product.
Well,
So,
that is so true, Eric. And so I'm a 13-time founder. And, so I definitely have the scars on my back to prove that. And after my last startup, where I raised 7 million, put in 1 million of our own resources, lost everything, which is a story best
oh
told
boy,
over a very big bottle of
yes,
bourbon.
yeah, I love to
I
hear that.
remember shopping at Aldi and, standing in front of the wine, which is $2 chuck at its best, right? And I just said to my husband, can we just stop drinking wine until we can afford to buy decent stuff? And that was back when we, every year we went to Napa Valley. And now, we haven't been in Napa Valley in probably 10 years, but we can't wait for our next trip to go visit distilleries. I started to tell you, and I kind of dropped my story a little bit, but my company has 87,000 hours of sweat equity. Okay, I want you to
Yep.
get your head around that. That's like as if we had raised 7 million in capital already. So we've built the foundation for our company based on the backs of all of those contributors. And we use something called slicing pie for that. It's a mechanism. There's a book about it. And it allows us to keep track of every hour of contribution, no matter how small or how large, and to be able to take those people and to give them multiples. So if they'll come in and do a friends and family investment of 25,000, we'll actually give them 5x the value of that for when we do finally move that over into the LLC as equity, right? And so what we do is we say, hey, if you will do that and match your investment in Netcapital, right? That's what gets you the 5x multiple. So we've gotten pretty creative about our friends and family raise, but I'm so glad to hear that you had such success because I think we're going to do that next of go in and widen the circle. We did it just with our stakeholders. And I didn't open it up to the friends and family. So sounds like that's my next move. So Erik, I want to come back and just wrap up because we're getting to the end of our recording
Yep.
here. I want to talk a little bit about giving because one of the things that sets us apart and why I was attracted to you guys is we believe that companies that give more make more, and not just that they write a bigger check to a charitable organization, but that they give of their time, their talents, and their treasures. And that they also make it a part of who they are as a company. And so for our company, when somebody goes to visit a distillery, if they book a hotel room night, we share the revenue back with the distillery, and we then donate 10% to their charity of choice. And if they help veterans, we double that. So we'll do 20%. And if the company we're working with is a nonprofit, like your music nonprofit, we actually donate 25%. And if it helps veterans, we double that too. So we give 50% of our revenue. So we would love to talk later, off
Yeah,
air
absolutely.
about working because we have an event tool that when people are coming to an event, if they want to spend the night, even if it's just a date night or let's make a weekend of it, we provide all of the systems that make that happen super seamlessly. And so I really appreciate your time today, but I'd love to hear about just a little bit more about the music organization, if you don't mind wrapping up with that.
Yeah, sure. So the music organization, again, is Operation Encore, a veteran music project. And it's an organization started, wow, 12 years ago by Trip and I and his partner in Dos Gringos, Snooze. The three of us started thinking about how we could continue to be a part of the veteran organization and in some way around music because it was really important to us. Both of them as talented musicians, uh,
Right.
me as somebody who really appreciate music, and we started looking at what makes sense. How can we be a part of this? I had just finished my master's degree, and I stood up the veteran program at Georgetown University, and I had just finished handing that off, and Trip and Snooze had realized Dos Gringos was going to get put on ice for a while, but they wanted to stay involved and engaged. We were living in DC and we realized there's great programs and the VA is doing some great things, but the rhetoric and really understanding what the veteran community needs and the relationship to society was still wrong, and people were getting it wrong regularly. And we thought
Right.
about, could we run concerts and benefit concerts? Like, we don't really know enough people to do that. Could we go and teach veterans how to play music? We know plenty of people that could do that, but it looked like somebody was already starting to do that already. So we started looking to say, like, maybe we can help a small number of people improve their skills and get an opportunity that they missed because of service, right? Some of the most formative years for musicians are in those t late teens and 20s when you can sleep on couches and camp
Right.
out after your gig and travel to do that. Well, all these people spend some of those formative years on ships deployed in the middle in the desert, serving their country, doing other things, and they missed that opportunity. And now they're
Right.
10 years, 20 years later, they've got families, they've got different responsibilities, they need a job, they don't have the access anymore, or maybe the time and the resources. So we looked for an opportunity and said, maybe there's enough talent out there that we could find those folks and give them the opportunity maybe they missed. And maybe they want to go on and tour, and this is a future job or career for them. Or maybe they got one great song in them, and we'd love to hear it, and they give them an opportunity to share.
Right.
So that's where we started. And then pretty quickly we realized there's even that's a great way to help those small number of veterans. And we do that. We bring on about 4 to 5 new veterans a year through Operation Encore. But then there's a larger, more strategic part of it that is important to us as well. And it's how can we leverage the powerful medium of music for veterans to tell their story and help bridge the civil military divide? Because we're at a time in history where despite there's a lot of military activity going on, it's less than 1% of the population in the United States that serves. So unlike previous generation, my grandparents' generation, where everybody's brother, uncle, mom, somebody served in the military, that's not the case today. And there are lots of people that don't even know a veteran and get uncomfortable or see somebody in uniform and they don't know how to dress them or what to say, so they just don't
Right.
say anything. And what we really try to leverage the music to do is break down those barriers and let people know that military members, veterans are just a microcosm of society. Sure, we
Right.
have heroes, but we've got scourges too. We've got everything in the middle. We're just your neighbors. Like when people leave their military service, they're your teacher, they're your banker, they're your neighbor. They're just like everybody else, and talk to them just like you would anybody else. Ask them what they did. Ask them where they live.
Right.
Talk to them about their experience. And that's what we try to do with the music that comes out of Operation Encore, is it's about telling stories. And this is where it connects so much with Winglore. It's about community. It's about stories, about sharing your personal experience.
Right.
Not political. It's not overly patriotic. It's about people. And how do we get people to better connect and be a part
Right.
of the same community together and not segregated.
Well, I love that. And again, Solutions would love to be a supporter of Operation Encore, so we will talk separately about how to make that happen.
Excellent.
I just want to thank you, Erik, first of all, for your service, for your team's service, and for sharing with me how you've been successful to date with your fundraising, because as an entrepreneur who's going down that same path, it can be a lonely journey. And so it's very, very encouraging to talk to somebody who is a little bit further along than we are. So I want you to just share with the listeners how they can invest on your Netcapital offering. And so would you share that, Erik? And then how they can buy your products?
Absolutely, for sure. So the two websites that you want to know about are www.winglorespirits.com, where you can go and buy any of our products, and the Netcapital site, netcapital.com, and search for Winglore Spirits. I think we're still currently the largest raising company on the platform. The minimum investment in Winglore is 50 shares at $101. So like when I'm talking to friends and families, like you said, like make that minimum investment for me, that first $101 is for me, or because you believe in me, the rest is for you. Whatever you think is the right investment,
I love
invest in
it.
it because you believe in the growth, and you, because you want to be part of a team that is going to go on to raise a good amount of money and have a great exit eventually. You're in this to be part of the team, to be in the squadron, but you're also in it as an investor to make money, and we recognize that and want to support you on that journey. So
Absolutely.
there's still that opportunity for us. This is an incredible part of what it is that we're growing, and we think that crowdfunding is important to us, not only because it brings in capital, that's of course a piece, but more important to us is getting those people like you on the team, on the squadron, to believe in what we're doing, to be a part of our community, to participate in those monthly roll calls. We call them the Soda Speakeasy roll call that we have. But we also offer to all of those investors that join our team, every one of them, when they sign up and we get that information, we'll send them their Winglore owner's coin, and you'll get a 10% discount for you and your close friends and family on our website in an enduring way, because we want to say thank you for being part of the team.
Love
So
it.
yeah, winglorespirits.com and netcapital.com.
Perfect. Well, Erik, thank you again so much for your time this morning, and we will definitely be talking again. We've been speaking with Erik Brine, and Erik is the Chief Strategy Officer of Winglore Spirits. And you will want to check out their product, and I would definitely get in on the front end of investing in this company. I think it's going to be a fun ride.
Thank you so much. Happy to have you on the team.
You've been listening to The Game Changer. Ideas, inspiration, innovation with Chicke Fitzgerald.